what made you realise that it was time to rewrite your own story?
My life was, at night I used to sleep on the settee because I just couldn't switch. I used to have 2 young children. My maternity leave for my first child, I had 2 weeks. Having board meetings and breastfeeding in a board meeting. My hours still used to be 12, 14-hour days, going back, cooking tea, doing everything, trying to run the house. And yeah, that was my life, brought in multi-million-pound deals. I was the evil person bringing in change.
What was the point for you, Amanda, where you're like, suddenly you thought, something's got to shift?
If you thought about your daughter and your daughter was living the life that you were doing now, I actually said it would break my heart to actually have my daughter living that life.
Amanda Daly, welcome to the Kate Kenny Show, #unfiltered.
And thank you for having me here. It's a privilege.
I'm so excited that you're here. We haven't seen each other for a long time, have we, in person?
Absolutely
What
not.
was it?
And then since then, so much has happened.
Yeah.
I think it would have been when we were actually, would it have been California or even Texas? Can't remember. Quite a
Oh,
little
you
while
came
ago.
to 2 retreats. That's
I
right.
did.
I was thinking Scotland, but I think California and Texas were after Scotland.
They
So,
were.
yeah, I can't remember which order they came in. We had a great retreat in Napa Valley. I remember you were at that one.
California came first, then it was Texas.
Then it was Austin, Texas.
Yes.
And we went out to a music night
We
and
did.
got serenaded in the park with a
We
violin
did,
player.
Absolutely.
which
And I
was-
think there was that beautiful wall with the memorial on with the pictures. and
That's
everything.
right. And
Yeah,
everybody took
stunning.
selfies
In the park.
with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. Gosh, that must have been 2017.
Long time ago.
A long time ago.
Absolutely.
Well, welcome back. And I am looking forward to diving into what has happened in the meantime.
Absolutely.
But for those people who are meeting you for the first time, just in your own words, Amanda, share what you do. You have one of the best business names. Well, you and actually another guest I'm going to be interviewing after you. I really love her business name too. And it's really powerful. I'm going to drop it here. It's the Turnaround CEO.
Absolutely.
So you are the Turnaround CEO. In your own words, what does the Turnaround CEO do? What's the work you do in the
Actually
world?
works with so many business leaders, and what it actually does, it makes people turn around and look through their life through a different lens, especially the way that they're looking at business, the way that they're running the business, the way that they're leading business, and the way that they show up.
Yeah.
So the way that they act, the way that they feel, and it just makes them literally have that self-reflection on themselves, that holding the mirror up to themselves.
Wow. And that is something that I know you are no stranger to. So we worked one-to-one for, it was definitely at least 2 years. Was it? It might have even been slightly longer than that.
It might have been a bit longer.
I
You're
was
coming
going to
into
say
3.
3, yeah, 3 years. And part of that, of course, was coming to the retreats as well that you came to that we talked about
The first one was
earlier.
the Edinburgh one.
Was that the first retreat?
I'm sure that was the first. No, it was actually the second retreat, and then we went to Edinburgh. The second retreat, Edinburgh.
Oh my gosh. And if you're watching this on video, maybe you'll notice, it depends how my amazing video editor does the editing, but Amanda looked off camera there, and we've got another special guest in the studio today who's not going to appear during this particular interview, but I am going to be interviewing her afterwards. Amazing, amazing woman by the name of Serena Humphrey, but a name drop there.
And that was the lady that actually introduced us together. So it's actually awesome that Serena is actually here.
That's
with us
amazing.
today.
And I love that you had to check with Serena. You're like, was that the first retreat? She's off camera checking. So tell us more about that. How did Serena what was that? She said, "Oh my gosh, you've got to how did she introduce us?"
I used to run my own business, and I used to run it with my now ex-husband. And Serena actually worked with us on our numbers. She used to be our FD. And over time, I think Serena kept seeing me disappearing.
Wow.
Bit by bit. I think she just saw me disappearing in myself. And we actually then developed a beautiful friendship. And I was talking to Serena, and my life was all about business, as absolutely a work addict. And it took me a point where I actually got broken totally broken to pieces. Didn't know who I was, didn't know who I stood for. I'd just become this robot in my business and in my marriage. And actually, it was through Serena that actually said, I know this wonderful lady, Kate.
That was me.
Go and meet her. Go and meet her
Wow.
and then see what happens. And that is where our journey began.
Wow, that's amazing. And I remember our first call, because I looked at you. You know how if you're going to have a call with somebody, and I love Serena. I'm going to look off camera. She knows I love her a lot. Like, really amazing, amazing woman. So when Serena introduces me to someone, I'm like, well, obviously this woman is also going to be of a super high caliber. And I'd done that thing where I looked, behind the scenes. And look, I've got some of this written down here. It's like you've built and turned around multi-million-pound businesses. We're obviously recording this in the UK right now, where that business you just spoke about was based. Multi-million-pound communications company that was, while navigating some of the toughest personal crossroads a woman can face, which we'll talk about a little bit more, and you touched on there. And so I remember that first call, and I remember reading up about the business that you were running now with your now ex, and thinking, gosh, do I know anything? You know how you have these thoughts in your head, Amanda, do I know anything about running a multi-million-dollar communications company? And I will never forget, you told me the strapline, the tagline for that company was any place, anytime, anywhere. And the reason I would never forget that is you had a watch at the time. And I remember you told me, you said, oh, it's fine. No, I sleep through it when it...
Hence, I still have a very similar watch.
But we kind of weaned you off it, like wearing it at night, because you had team globally, which meant there were always messages coming in. Your going to bed time was someone else's waking up time. It really was any place, anytime, anywhere. And the watch, it was one of the first things we talked about in our coaching work together. But I remember that first phone call because I'd read up all about you, and I was like, gosh, I trust Serena and I'm looking forward to meeting you, but do I know anything about that particular business? And I think sometimes as a coach, we can feel those kind of thoughts or have those kind of thoughts. But then we got on the phone and I heard your story, and with your permission, can we dive into that a little
Isn't
bit?
Isn't this what it's about, Kate?
Well, it's hashtag unfiltered, so yeah, and I
you
trust
go
you
for it.
completely. You'll tell me if at any point, nope, we're not going to go there, we're not going to go there. And so much has changed, I know, since we last saw each other, which is beautiful, and I cannot wait to dive into that. So you have built and turned around multi-million-pound businesses while navigating, as I said a minute ago, some of the toughest personal crossroads a woman can face. Sometimes you've been doing that at the same time, navigating that and working deeply, deeply, deeply in the business. For those who only see the powerhouse that you are today, Amanda Daly, can you take us back? So I know you just mentioned a few things just now, but what was life like before the turnaround? And what made you really, really realise that it was time to rewrite your own story?
We were talking about the watch, and actually it's funny because I did forget about that, because I did live by constantly having a look what's happening, what clients needed, what my members of staff needed. And basically my life was, at night I used to sleep on the settee. I don't know whether you can remember that.
I do remember that.
Because I just couldn't switch off. And the only time I could sleep was if I had TV in the background, because the noise was there, and I could focus on the noise, and then I could switch off from work. So for many nights, I used to sleep on the settee. I used to have 2 young children. My maternity leave for my first child, I had 2 weeks. And I always remember having board meetings and breastfeeding in a board meeting.
This is, not just having board meetings, you were leading the board meeting.
A massive part of it,
So your role...
was driving the sales at that time. Yeah.
And I remember that you shared a really vivid story. So 2 weeks maternity leave, then you're back in the boardroom, And I remember you sharing with me, there was the whiteboard at the front of the boardroom, room full of men, and there's you with the baby.
Turning my back
to them, breastfeeding,
and
whilst
still partaking.
Still delivering.
Yeah.
Wow.
And going to work, my baby used to come with me. 19 months later, I had a second baby as well. And my hours still used to be 12, 14-hour days.
Wow.
Going back, cooking tea, doing everything, trying to run the house. And that was my life. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just going to do a quick, this is now from having lived in America for a while. People are like, what's tea? We're going to talk more about tea in this conversation, I know as well. But tea is supper, right? It's
Absolutely.
dinner. Like going home and putting the tea on means I'm going to go home and cook dinner after doing those 12 to 14-hour days. 2 young children. How old are your children now?
Oh, goodness. They are now 22 and 20.
Oh, my gosh.
Yes.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That is a true time changing, right? That's amazing. What are they doing now?
My youngest, Frances, she is at university at Liverpool.
Oh, what a
my
great
goodness,
city.
she
Wow.
is a powerhouse in
Is
her own
she?
self. Absolutely.
What's she studying there? What's she
She's
doing?
politics and international business.
Wow.
And I would say she is unemployable. She is an absolute
Already
powerhouse.
at 20. Wow.
Absolute powerhouse. And my son, he's very different. Absolutely gorgeous, and he's still finding himself at this moment in time.
Beautiful.
So he actually works at a supermarket at the moment.
Great.
Looking at going into management at the moment.
Wonderful.
So he'll be what he will. He'll develop himself.
Absolutely brilliant. And it is, I mean, I think even like real life experience makes a difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely. He'll find his own way.
He totally will. He absolutely will. I remember I had some time off. I actually got thrown out of art college. That's a totally different story. We won't go into that now. But at age 21, I was working in the Body Shop, the cosmetics company. And I remember my mum, who had great ideas about what I could do. She was not as evolved as you are in this moment, Amanda, saying he will find himself. My mum, when people said, what does she do? My mum with a kind of look and a withering kind of, I don't know, Maggie Smith style in Downton Abbey. So she's working in a shop. I was like, I'm going to do something, Mum. And anyway, later I went and did the degree.
There's with my children, they both have ADHD and autism, and one blessing out of the whole marriage is that's what we discovered. Wow. And part of what made my parenting so different, I didn't know. And of course, you love your children for what they are. You know, you don't know any different. But as we went through the journey, what I find out is both mine have ADHD. And actually that put even more pressure on you because obviously they were quirky, the way that they needed to be looked after. Being a parent, you always felt you weren't good enough. And some of it was from them, the traits that they were bringing in as well.
Wow. How did you, at what age were they diagnosed? Were they diagnosed at the same time?
Only about 14.
Wow.
So they were mid-teenagers before we knew. And that actually fell out of the divorce because what we actually found that it was related to the family. And obviously all that added to...
Gosh, okay.
What may come out next.
Oh, yes, I was going to say we've got strands of conversation here. So let's go back to how you knew that it was time to really rewrite your own story. And so you've talked about the watch, you've talked about the 12 to 14-hour days. We've talked about that story of leading board meetings. You were definitely a woman that was like, I am just carrying on. And I'm going to do whatever it takes. And you didn't stop really for 1 second, did you, Amanda, to think,
to me, that was normal.
Yeah.
To me, that was normal. And in a way, I'd say the family that I married into saw me coming. You know, I think they saw that trait in me and wonderful. You know, I entered into the business and the business was a gift.
You just, so if you're not watching this on video, Amanda just did air quotes there. The business was an air quote gift. Is that from their perspective? You mean it was like, we're giving you
absolutely
this opportunity?
Now, I don't think it was even an opportunity as such. I think it was just an expectation for then you to take that and
And run with
you
it.
needed to deliver on that
As
gift.
it were. Okay. So I remember from conversations we had back in the day, and then we'll go into how did you get to that point of knowing? Because you were a woman who's just going to carry on. You were sleeping on the settee. You'd had the baby 19 months later, the second baby. Like you were just, that was what it was. But I am going to, at this moment, I remember back in the day when we were having conversations really regularly and you sharing that this, air quotes, gift, you started not in a leading teams level. You didn't start in the boardroom. You didn't come in leading sales. You started in quite a junior position. And then how long did you work for the company? This is the family business of the
I was
family you
there
married
for
into.
20 years.
20 years. So you started at a, let's just say, a lower level or an entry level.
For sales. I came in as a sales role and I married the boss's son.
Okay, so your ex-husband was the boss's son and you went through a lot. So as you rose through the company, it wasn't really seen that it was on your own merit.
Oh gosh, no. Nothing I did was good enough. Nothing I did was good enough because everything was given to me, right?
Wow.
It wasn't anything that I did. It was just because it was given to me. So you were constantly wading through mud, trying to prove yourself to why I was trying to prove myself to these people now. I don't know. But at that time, you were constantly proving yourself to a group of people.
What was that like, Amanda?
Heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if you brought in multi-million-pound deals. It didn't matter if you changed the direction of the business to become a lot more sustainable. I can remember when we were working in the business, technology was changing. Cloud technology was coming in. And we started moving the business towards cloud technology. We had the traditionalists in the business that didn't want to move. They just liked what they were doing. I was the evil person bringing in change. But now looking back, that was one of the best things that we ever did for the business. We brought in multi-million-pound CCTV contracts coming in. Again, battling to get the business to change, to actually fit in with what was coming through the window, what was going to keep them afloat in the future. But again, nothing you did was ever good enough.
No, and I'm really hearing one of your strengths, and I know this through knowing you personally, is that futuristic, like really being able to step into the future and feel and see the signs of what's actually coming. And of course now 2025, we're sitting here having this conversation. Better be moving with the times, right? Because it's moving really, really rapidly.
Absolutely.
And so to have been that stand to push that through. So we talked about Serena earlier and she said, you've got to meet this woman. And then we talked about, we did work together after that. But what was the point for you, Amanda, where you're like, suddenly you thought, something's got to shift? What was that?
I think there was the question. And it was, if you thought about your daughter and your daughter was living the life that you were doing now.
Wow.
I actually said it would break my heart to actually have my daughter living that life.
Wow. Yeah, and I can hear that emotion right now.
What really changed me.
Yeah, that's a really, really powerful wake-up question.
Absolutely, absolutely. I was having very little time at home. My mum was the mum of my children.
Wow.
And again, there was very little support for me as a mum. There was very little love in the marriage for me as a wife. It was just, how much can you make? How much can you bring in for the business? And just go and do your thing.
Wow. So how do you navigate that? And obviously, I mean, I have an insider perspective in that we work together through that very, very pivotal time. And now I know you support other women particularly, but also I know you do work with men, absolutely. But through, as you said earlier, holding a mirror up and saying, okay, something needs to shift here. So you are a complete I'm going to use the word expert, but this is your field of expertise, and you've done lots of studying and lots of different modalities and things to support people around that. But let's take it back to you navigating that, Amanda. You're at home. Well, you're not at home, you're at work. You're bringing the home to the work. But you have a husband who's the boss of the business. I believe you switched roles at one point, didn't you?
I became the MD. Yeah.
So you became the MD, and then his role was?
He became the chairman.
Okay, so he was the chair. So, and before that, he was the MD.
He was the MD.
And then you took that over.
And I was the sales director.
Yeah. So you took that role on. So you're running that business, and he's there at home. You've got your 2 children, not yet diagnosed with the autism that you shared about. That came a little bit later. And you have that question. If my daughter was to live the life I'm living now, how would I feel about that? And you were like, I would be heartbroken. So you've realised that. Serena has said to you, you've got to talk to this woman. I'm guessing you said something like that to Serena at that point, right? And now we're having this conversation. And that really was the turning point in terms of something's got to shift. I'm not okay with this anymore.
Absolutely.
So how, and obviously I had an insider view on this a little bit, but in your own reflection back on that time, and really I'm asking this question too, sometimes when I'm recording these interviews, Amanda, I can feel people listening and I can hear questions that are being asked. And something I'm really sensing and feeling in this moment is, how do you come to that realisation? You're in the thick of it. The 12 to 14 hour days are happening. Your husband is the person who's in the business, that you're in the business with. The household income, very dependent on your shoulders still, and his, but really you being the driving force, you future-proofing the business as much as you can. That, I would imagine, and also known from his, that starts to create some real dissonance. How do you navigate that? And if somebody is listening right now who's like, that question that you just dropped, which is really powerful, and maybe they're sitting listening right now going, I actually don't want my daughter or my son to be living this life. What are the steps to take, Amanda, to begin to navigate that? And how, share freely whatever feels true for you.
I think it's managing the guilt and understanding why you're carrying that guilt. There was another pivotal point for me as well. We went away on the 2 retreats with yourselves to start off with, and there was a pivotal point. Is this really a marriage?
Wow.
Can a partner who sees their other partner breaking, crying when they come home, in absolute bits, can't even eat food?
Wow. Yeah.
Because my stomach was so full of cortisone, so full of stress. My children used to play noughts and crosses on my arms because my intolerance to food grew so much because of my stress levels.
Wow.
And I actually got to the point, he's coming downstairs, he's seeing me laying on the settee. I haven't had any sleep. Meetings were coming up and I was so tired. And yet the response is, well, if you're not going to work, I'm not going to go to work. And it actually made you sit back and reflect. Is this actually a loving husband? We'd had dialogues about, let's downsize. The business is making me ill. The comment that I got, but how could you take the children out of the education system?
Wow.
You know, so it took me a little while to understand that wasn't love. There was another point as well where after the retreat, we actually decided I was going to get a divorce. Obviously, my husband at the time didn't want to get a divorce.
Sure.
So we went to mediation in Scotland. And one of the biggest points was we were introducing ourselves and why we were here at this occasion. And my husband started talking about the marriage, where he felt it broke down, blah, blah, blah. And then I started talking. And I was talking about the sleepless nights. I was talking about the lack of attention. I was talking about the stress at work, how much I hated work, how much I hated myself, how much I hated myself as a mother. And the lady that we were talking to just stopped the conversation. And she actually said, would you like me to get the police involved? If you want to get the police involved, I can't carry on with this mediation because I can't work with you both.
Wow.
And that's the point. It hit me hard because it was abuse.
Wow, Amanda. Wow. Wow.
And that was the biggest turning point.
Thank you for sharing that. That's huge. It's really huge. Thank you. And it's amazing how we can be in situations every day, day in, day out, and not know that.
Absolutely.
And not realise that.
It's like everybody saw you as a powerhouse at work. You'd continue through what? You'd have the high-level meetings. You'd do the business planning. You'd be looking at the finance. You'd be looking at the sales. You'd be working with this team that you're dragging. And yet you didn't even know you're being abused.
It's such a... Well, there's two questions here. Let me just ask you the question. What happened next? She said that.
My ring came off.
In that moment?
Absolutely. And
wow.
it never went back on.
Wow, really? It never went back on. And did you took it off? Did the meeting end there?
No, we stayed there for 4 days, as daft as it sounded, because again, I felt I was the one that was doing wrong because it was my decision to end the marriage.
Wow.
I actually felt I was the one that was in the wrong. It took 4 days for this woman to really get that message sunk in. And the only way that she really got the message across to me, she had to talk quite blunt to me. And I'd never forget these words. Amanda, you're being treated like a prostitute.
Oh, wow.
Not in the sexual way.
Sure.
But what you're actually doing is you're going out there and you're earning money. That is what you're loved for.
Oh, wow.
Going out, turning up, doing your thing and bringing money in.
Wow.
And that, again, adding on to that retreat before where you're really, really recognising something really isn't right. You couldn't put your finger on what, but you just knew.
Yes.
But it goes to say, it doesn't matter how strong you can be at work, sometimes we don't value ourselves enough. And it asks and begs the question, how did you not value yourself enough to know that you're being abused?
And it's absolutely real. And I haven't shared this openly, and I don't know if we even talked about this, and it's a totally different experience to what you're speaking about, though. We are strong women. You're a strong woman. I'm a strong woman. Serena, sitting off camera, is a strong woman. We're all strong women. And I think as high achievers, we carry on, don't we?
Absolutely.
We know how to apply ourselves. We know what to do. And when I say a totally different situation, many, many years ago, not a marriage, it was a long-term relationship, about a 6-year-long relationship. And I'd moved away from friends and was actually living on a boat with no roof, which is another story entirely. It was his dream to live on a boat, and the one we could afford had no roof, and we lived with an Alsatian dog. Anyway, and a friend and I had started my first business, and a friend of mine who knew me really, 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 really well, we went out for dinner one night, and she'd asked me lots of questions, and then she phoned me up, and I was on this boat with no roof, and she said, "Can you talk?" And there was no privacy on this boat. It was just basically I mean, if you saw it, you'd be like, how would you be living on that boat, Kate? It wasn't even river worthy. It was literally up on dry dock, and we were kind of fixing it up. And I got by her tone of voice that it was really serious. And I said, yeah, give me a minute. So I had to climb down the ladder. And I remember I had the phone in one hand and one hand on the rungs. And she literally read me out the Domestic Violence Act of the UK. This was in the UK. I really hear what you're saying, Amanda, and it's a really powerful question. She read me out the act, and she did it one by one, and she asked me, tick or not, tick or not. There were two things I couldn't say yes to. Hadn't seen any of that. And it wasn't physical violence, which I think is the first thing that people think about.
Absolutely.
Domestic violence, so domestic abuse rather, or abuse in relationships, sexual, physical. Well, those were the two things. They were a no. Neither of those were happening. And I'm hearing
absolutely
similar
not.
for you.
Yeah,
but psychologically, emotionally, tick, tick, tick. Things I didn't even know counted as abuse because we're used to...
You just get on with it.
Right. Used to just getting on with it. Exactly. So how did he react in that? I do want to ask that question, but I feel like, so I got down off the ladder and I was shell shocked. You were just like, it had never crossed your mind, never entertained that thought. Me neither. I remember it was a pretty windy day and I was like, what do I do next? Now you know, like you said, you took your wedding ring off. Because now you know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was the point, I think, for me. I was like, oh, I can't stay in that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then it takes navigation and untangling and all of those kind of things. So back to that meeting, she said that you were clear, like wake up moment,
mm-hmm.
took your ring off. What was his response?
Denial. And again, I think that's why it was there for four, we were there for 4 days. Denial about it. And I'm sure there is still a form of denial now. But we've all moved on, and it's actually turned out to be the best thing ever.
Has it?
Actually
Okay.
leaving that business. And I can remember at the time, I actually just said, it's my life. How can I leave this business? It's my life.
That. Yeah.
I didn't realise how much it was killing me doing it, but that's all I knew.
Yeah, 20 years is a long time.
Because I didn't have anything outside work, Yes, I had my children, but again, I didn't really spend a lot of time with my children because of the pressure that I got from work. I always had to turn up and be the person for the business.
Yes, and that point you just made, it's like not having anything outside work. So back to anybody listening right now of, oh my gosh, I've had that realization, and maybe it's abuse, maybe it's not abuse, but it's like, this is not working for me, like we were speaking about earlier, and navigating that, beginning to navigate that. So realizing I'm working and there's my kids, I'm trying to sleep, that's not happening very much or very often, but I'm trying to sleep. But gosh, I don't have anything else in my life that I'm doing for me. Like, I'm going to use a 3-letter word here, Amanda. Begins with F. It's 3 letters. F-U-N. What am I doing for fun?
There wasn't very little towards the end. Very little towards the end. It was just work.
So I love that you said, look, it worked out for the best. And we are absolutely, because we're going to talk about the turnaround CEO, the name of which actually came on a retreat.
It did. That was the second retreat.
That was the second
and
retreat.
I think that's why I was thinking about it, because we went on the retreat. There was a whole load of powerful ladies that came from international, they're all over the world. And they actually saw in me what I didn't see in myself.
Yes.
And they gave me the courage to set up a consultancy. And they even came up with the name.
I remember
CEO.
The turnaround CEO.
And obviously then that stayed with me. And again, talk about somebody that as just a doer. I got back the next day, the company was registered, everything had been done, and the turnaround was born.
I was gonna say, it didn't just stay with you. Like, you are a woman on a mission.
Just
You're
got
like,
done
I know
the
what I'm
next
up
day.
to. I'm doing it. Yeah. So
Just got done the next day.
and I really remember that moment on the retreat, actually. I remember you sitting there and all of us around the table could see this brilliant, amazing woman who had qualities coming out of her ears. Like, I mean, let alone the accolades of, as we started this conversation with, building and turning around multi-million-pound businesses while navigating all the tough things. We could all see that. And I remember you sitting there and it was almost like you just couldn't. I mean, I think this is true about ourselves sometimes, isn't it? We see ourselves from inside our own minds and we don't see what others see in us. But I remember it was almost like, you know how they talk about having interventions? Well, interventions are really important in circumstances, but it felt like that. You were sitting there, I think, kind of almost telling us, like, no, this is the fact. Look, I'm not this and I'm not that. And we're all like, no, that is not true. Like, we hear you, we love you, but actually let us just shine some light on this is what we see. And I'm now vaguely remembering that we started to write out a list of the things that Amanda had done. And you were like, oh no, but that was normal, or this and that. And then we were really looking at, I think you were asking the question, well, what would I do? What would I do? Because this is all I've known. And I think it is really scary.
Yeah, but don't forget, I'd been conditioned. The only reason I was in this position is because I married the boss's son.
Right.
It was nothing to do with my merits.
Yes.
It was nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
It was just fluke. It was a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was nothing down to your own abilities.
Right. So here's the, I'm doing air quotes now, the reinvention and the recreation of Ms. Amanda Daly begins ... to be continued. And so that was when the idea of high-level consultancy came up, because quite frankly, you'd been doing it. And I think even though you were still saying, oh, but that's because I think even you were at that point starting to go, oh, no shit, I kind of am doing that. And that was when I remember the lady opposite you sat there and she was like, oh, you're the turnaround CEO. And we were all like, yes, that is who you are. And so let's talk about the turnaround CEO now. Yeah. Amanda, you're absolutely right. You're a complete doer. You literally did it the next day. The company was registered. You'd got a lawyer. You knew what you needed to do, and you set it up. Now you're still married at this point. Yeah, that's all starting to kind of rumble.
Yeah, and that was before we went on the
Scotland
marriage guidance thing as well. Yeah.
Okay, so it's all, and this is how life works, isn't it? It isn't all nice and neat with a nice bow. It's not like, oh, I had that realization, now I'm going to do that. It's like, oh, actually, I need to do this business, start it, haven't been and found that thing out yet. Yeah. Now you're going to do that a bit later. Yeah. So what for you, if you could describe in your own words with the turnaround CEO, not like, I mean, you could share the company's mission. We talked about that earlier, but from your heart, Amanda, and if you're speaking to somebody listening right now that is high achieving, that is somebody that maybe has been doing something for a long time, and maybe there's little rumblings that there's either something more or this actually isn't feeling that great. Maybe the 3-letter word FUN is missing, or very, very tiny, scarce breadcrumbs are kind of popping in. Talk about your work with the turnaround CEO and what you would say to them to do next. Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah, I'd just say back yourself.
Back yourself.
Have the faith to take that leap of faith and just back yourself. Because in my world, what could have been worse? You had a marriage that wasn't a marriage. I was very capable of making money, and to me, if my marriage was all about just materials, I'll go and do it myself. I'll rebuild myself. Yeah. And that's exactly what I did. Yeah. One thing that I knew that I had is the capacity to sell, because I've always been in a sales role. So I just backed myself on that sales ability. And everybody's got something to back yourself on.
Yeah.
Just do it. Because taking that leap of faith, that's the hardest bit to do. Once you've done that leap of faith, everything falls into place, because you're doing the right thing and it's the right thing for you. And once you've got that backing of yourself, magic happens. And that's basically what happened with the turnaround. I'd set up the business, I'd got it registered, I just literally announced it out there that I was doing it, and then clients came. And then since then, the turnaround is now coming up to about 9 years old now.
Wow.
I know.
Isn't that wild?
I know.
Oh my God.
I've never looked back, and there's never really been a point where I've ever been any worse off than I was walking out of this business.
Wow.
So again, it's just the matter of backing yourself and just going for it.
Wow. And then you had that idea, you left the retreat, you set it up the next day. I remember you announcing it.
2 weeks later, I'd got my first client.
Which 2 weeks later, you had your first client. So I am underlining that right now, because yes, you'd registered the business. Yes, you'd got as legal, you'd found a solicitor drawing up agreements and whatever and that stuff. You announced it. Let's just be really clear. You didn't have an all singing, all dancing website at that point.
I know, I just went networking, and people knew me through my work at the IT business, because through my work, you'd help business leaders, you'd find the problems, you'd help them identify. Through technology, you helped a business grow.
Yep.
There was no difference to what I was doing. I was working alongside business leaders at that point in time to help their businesses grow. They knew what I'd done with the company. I grew it. I doubled it when I took over as MD. So people saw what you did, and then they just said, "Can you come and help me?"
Wow.
And that's how I started.
Yes.
But again, it's evolved quite a lot from just helping people run the business now. It's actually really going into behaviour, it's working into mindset, and it's gone into actually teams now as well. It's actually changing the way everybody in a business thinks and feels. Beautiful. And gets everybody in a different place of that belief.
Wonderful.
That belief in themselves.
Wow.
And once you get the whole team believing in themselves, actually then grows a business. And the businesses that I work with now are far bigger than what I ever did when I was working at Daily Calm, So again, it's just amazing. Helping people believe in themselves.
That's so beautiful, Amanda. And it totally ties into your story. I mean, that's the story, isn't it? Of I had to learn to believe in myself, back in that retreat room. And you've got, I think there were 8 or 6, I can't remember. It was
8,
an intimate group of women in that room, and all like, we see you, we believe in you. And then that tipping point of you believing in yourself, like really, oh, I can do this. And then taking that immediate action to do that. And just to say, you didn't have what people think you need, or what sometimes people hide behind. You had you. Yeah. You believed in yourself and you networked. You actually built, you had those relationships. In fact, you just told people what you were doing, and then people came to you. What were you going to say? You think?
I think that's the issue, isn't it? Some people wait for perfection. Yes. People want to have everything lined up. And sometimes, when have you ever got that? When is ever the right moment? Whenever is everything perfect? There isn't.
No.
So sometimes just jump right in.
Yes.
Trust. And then just allow what happens to happen, and just go on the journey. You maybe don't know where you're going to go, but just trust the next step is always going to appear.
It's so true, isn't it? I mean, I know we've just said that. I feel like, just trust and do it. I mean, really, that is the thing. You can stand on the edge of the water for ages going, oh, is it cold? I don't know. Maybe I need some more protective gear or whatever it is. But yeah, just starting the journey, really starting the journey.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit more. We started right at the beginning. You're like, oh my gosh, so much has happened. So much has changed. So we know you've got divorced. That happened.
Absolutely.
And I could ask you lots of questions here about the business. Maybe I will ask you. I'm going to ask you that one question. Hang on, bookmark there for a second, and then let's go into what's happened in the time. So you've left the business, you've set up your own business, you got your first client within 2 weeks. You are now obviously divorced, not married anymore, still have 2 wonderful children. Amazing. You set up the business while you were still working at the old business. That's the one I just wanted to bookmark and come back to. So how long from making that decision, registering the turnaround CEO, to walking out of the door of what was your full-time job? What was that time span?
I'd say 18 months.
18 months, okay.
The turnaround and my name started growing more for the turnaround than it did the original business. So it was kind of causing a conflict because who was Amanda?
Okay.
And also my name, Amanda Daly, was becoming more associated with the turnaround than it was the original business. And it came to the point, okay, who am I? Who do I really want to be?
Yeah.
So the decision was made within the company as well for me just to walk out.
Okay.
And that's basically, we then decided enough's enough, and then I just walked out and I never even looked back. After working there for 20 years, I've never looked at how it's been doing. I never actually referred back to it. I have really got no interest in it. As soon as I walked out that door for the last time, a bit like my marriage, took off the ring, I walked out that door. I have never ever once looked back, never ever thought about how it's doing, never ever got in touch with everybody. It's gone in the past.
Wow.
Moved on.
Wow. That's amazing. If you could go back, Amanda, and see that beautiful woman that was breastfeeding that baby at the whiteboard with all the years ahead of her that was still ahead of her, what's one piece of advice you would whisper in her ear that you now know?
Oh my God, I wish you'd have done it 10 years sooner.
Yeah.
If you just look deeper within you, I'd have done it 10 years earlier.
I really hear that.
And this is where so many people wait, and it's like, how bad does it actually have to get till you actually make that decision? And again, just do it. If something isn't right, just listen to your gut. Don't wait and hang around because there's something better out there for you. So do it.
Do you think she, like listening to your gut, do you think if you had I know we're talking in kind of fairy stories here of waving a magic wand, but do you think she, like feeling back to that woman standing at the whiteboard, did she know really deeply something was up?
If you remember, I said I couldn't eat. My stress levels were so high. I actually went for cognitive behaviour therapy. They knew exactly what the issue was.
They did.
And again, I didn't want to hear it.
Right.
I didn't want to hear it. Again, if I was open to it and I really listened, that's what they were telling me. Leave. Get out.
Wow.
This is what's causing you your issues that you're having.
Yeah, and it's so there is timing in these things, isn't there? And I know we're making this up too, and you saying so openly, I just wasn't open to hearing
I wasn't ready to listening to it. Again, I guess this came to the self-doubt, the self-value. And also, I never knew things would get as bad as what they did. You live when you're a self-driving person, you always look for what great things can you build. You just carry on and carry on and carry on. And that's basically what happened
and what you did. Okay, let's fast forward now. Let's go. We're sitting here right now, here today. What has happened in the interim? So tell me about business, if you're open to talking about love life, like is there somebody in your life now? We know you're divorced. is the 3-letter fun word in your life
goodness,
now?
absolutely,
Amanda, tell us about that. Fill me in.
I am a workaholic, and I know that. I do need to keep working on that, but I love the work that I do now.
Beautiful.
And I think that's the biggest difference. And part of my journey is when I set off on the turnaround, we spoke about I used to sit alongside business leaders and help run the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting there and it was like, you know what to do. Why are you paying me to sit alongside you and you know what you should be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Because as soon as I walk out that door, you're going to go back into your own habits. And actually, you're not going to have learnt. You're not going to have moved forward. And then that really got me thinking about my mindset. Why couldn't I see it? And also what was going on with me. And that's what really then started move me into behaviour. Because there was something in me that stopped me seeing what I needed to see.
Yeah.
And often when I'm working with business leaders and managers, there's something in them that stops them seeing what they need to see. Self-doubt, imposter syndrome, self-worth, self-value, everything we were talking about with myself.
Yeah.
So now what I actually tend to do before I turn on the business kind of tuning in button, I work on behaviour.
Right.
So we really get underneath why they behave like they're doing. Once we actually start working on why they're behaving, on what they're doing, we then make them into the most awesome leaders, and then we really start turning up the pressure on the business. Whereas before I started working on the business first, and then we didn't have the person present.
Right,
but I flipped it, really now getting the people being who they need to be, and then the business then starts rolling and working in a different way.
That's beautiful, and it's wonderful that you could see that in yourself. It's like there's something. It's funny, in an interview I was recording earlier today here in the studio, we talked about that invisible, it's funny because we're sitting in front of a brick wall, but the invisible brick wall that I'm trying everything I know how to do, and even back to the story you were sharing about the cognitive behavioural therapy, where you said, I think I knew they could see something, but I couldn't hear it. It's like we still think, oh no, but I could try this. And yet no matter what we try, there's that invisible brick wall that comes up. So I know you studied some modalities to really help you with that behavioural piece. What did you go and learn, Amanda? What do you bring into your work now, if you're open to talking about that?
No, I got my master's in coaching, so I studied coaching.
Wow.
But also then I did hypnotherapy, and I've got my diploma in mindset and hypnotherapy as well.
Wonderful.
So I can actually delve more into the clinical side of it as well.
Great.
So we can go into what caused things, where did it start beginning, and then start changing people's stories.
Wonderful.
And then making them feel different about themselves.
Wow.
So that's when we kind of bring in commercial coaching and mindset together, and it really gets people understanding why they act and why they are how they do. Yeah. And I also use DISC, behaviour profile, which is just a behaviour tool, and we do a lot on emotional intelligence as well.
I can really tell you're loving your work.
I love it. I actually, and you know, it sounds like the past was harsh, and yes, it was. But it wouldn't have made me who I am. And my children, with them being on the spectrum as I had, I really had to delve in and understand them. And actually, this really helps me now with my skills and actually unlocking what's really going on. You just get a feeling there's more,
amazing.
Don't you?
Yes.
And then when you're working with leaders, you just know there's more. And that's the tools now that I've got help me dig deeper to actually find out what the more is. And then once they're feeling better about themselves, guess what? The business improves. So
funny that, isn't it?
It all works
What's
together.
that saying that it's never, people come with a business problem, but it's usually an emotional thing disguised as a business problem. And then it's taking the time to actually not slow down, because I know high achievers, like you're a high achiever, I'm a high achiever, like don't want to slow down completely. And actually, when we actually stop to take space to really look at what's going on and get to the root of that, it's, yes, it might take a tiny bit longer to do that, but then it's actually resolved. and you can actually go full speed ahead in the direction you really, really, really want to go.
Something that's been really important for me, which is really hard for me, slowing down and speeding up. And that sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards.
Yes.
And that sometimes is the most painful thing to do. But boy, does that really work.
Yeah, Say a little bit more about that, Amanda, because I know you're not alone, and I know I still work with high achieving, powerful, visionary, you know, people whose brains think really, 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 really fast, and we hear that, don't we? Slow down to speed up, or slow is fast is another expression that's used a lot. And I love, thank you for your honesty. You're like, still one of the hardest things for me to do.
Absolutely.
Do you see that in your clients as well? And how do you help them? Even though I know you've just like, hello, I'm still like working on this for myself. How do you support them in that process? And what, if you've got any stories that pop into your mind, have you seen any real like results in that area, or any client stories, obviously within client confidentiality, that you're open to sharing?
Oh my goodness. Do you know, I love working with the most awkward, power-driven leaders. And these are the people that necessarily don't come naturally to you. You know, they've perhaps been asked to see you through other people. And when they start talking to you, you could see they're so against being with you. But after a session, you have them in tears.
Wow.
Because you've read them, you've given them space, you give them permission to slow down. And when they actually have that mirror of reflection and really, really understand what's going on, they're then ready. And I think that is the most powerful thing for me, really, having the people that are so driven and so determined, and actually are the least people that want to be vulnerable, to actually then get them in position that they allow themselves to be vulnerable. And that pouring out of emotion tends to be that switching point for them. Like I had it, it tends to be that permission to actually reset and relook at how you're approaching work, how you're even approaching the team. And that tends to be the biggest turning point.
I really hear that. And there's a thing that's, I think, really true, that it can be, I think we even talked about this back in the day as well, but the loneliness of being at the top. And when you are somebody whose mind thinks really fast and on multiple levels at once, maybe you're running a team, and maybe you have people reporting to you, and you're holding the business, all of those things, and the vision for the business as well. Who do you talk to?
Vulnerability is a weakness, right?
Right.
You're this person that should have all the answers.
Yeah, right.
So why should you not be able to do that? And it takes quite a lot of people, for some people, to actually understand it's not a weakness. Oh my goodness, it's an absolute strength.
Yes.
You don't have to be everything to everyone.
Yes.
And when some people then start realizing that, start delegating, start looking at succession, start looking at different ways of working, and just being them, it brings a different quality into the business. And then that changes the culture as well within the business.
That's huge. And I love the glint in your eye. And again, if you're not watching this on video, you won't have seen that glint in Amanda's eye. But if you want to watch it on video, Spotify or YouTube, there's video. I know on Apple Podcasts there isn't, but I love that glint in your eye where you're like, what did you say? Awkward?
Oh, goodness me.
And like didn't want to be there in the room. And other people have said, I can almost hear the team like, you need to sort this out. And they're there with you. And I love that glint in your eye where you're like, they don't want to be in that room.
The bigger the challenge, the better. Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
That's
People
so
will just say, there's no way you'll be able to work with that person. And then before you know it, they're introducing you to other people in the business.
That's amazing.
So, yeah,
That's amazing.
They're the people that I love working with.
Beautiful. So do you have, I mean, I know you run events and you speak, and in your events, you, through the work you've done, the modalities you've learned that you bring into your work, you really do uncover truths that lead to profound shifts. They're not just, oh, let's do this a little bit better. It's profound. Like you said, people ending up in tears after just one session, and you're like, okay, there you are. Like, there you are. Is there a standout breakthrough you've witnessed, either at events or through the one-to-one work you've done, with working with a leader that comes to mind, or that you'd be open to sharing with us, that you've personally witnessed through somebody really taking themselves on? I mean, your story is huge testament to this, quite frankly, Amanda, it really is. But in your own work with the Turnaround CEO, does anyone come to mind?
I think for me, it's a lady that I've recently been working with and still working with, very young lady, full of self-doubt, really, really helped her look at herself through the mirror. And it is very similar to my journey. She perhaps didn't have the belief in herself. However, now she's been with the business for a year. She's now the transformation director within the business.
Wow.
And this is taking somebody maybe that didn't quite have that inner belief, and now just really owning herself and just running with it. And absolutely awesome lady.
Wonderful.
Absolutely awesome lady.
That's great. I just sitting here in this room with you right now, I can just feel the magnitude of the work you do with people.
It's just making people the most awesome versions of themselves. And sometimes it just helps somebody to help you see it.
100%.
Again, that's what transformed me. And that's now the work that I do to help people see it for themselves as well.
Beautiful. That is amazing. Okay, I've got a couple more questions here before we wrap up. I am loving this conversation. I feel like we could, well, we're going to go out for dinner later, actually, aren't we?
Looking forward to
we're
that.
going to get to have more conversations as well. But these are such important conversations, and just reflecting back in my mind, obviously we'll put below this episode on the show notes how people can get in touch with you. I'm going to ask you that question in a moment if you want to get in touch with Amanda. But also, I think, given the topics that we've talked about here, we'll also post resources as first steps for people. And either if that's women in relationships where perhaps through this conversation something might have dropped in for them, that there's something going on that's not right, as we both talked about, not always something you're thinking about. You don't.
And I think sometimes you might be a powerhouse, but you might be a powerhouse on the outside, but in the inside, oh my goodness, you're breaking.
Yeah. And you just keep going. You just keep going. So we'll make sure those resources are posted as well below for this show. And if there's anything specific you'd love me to share or us to share about that for this episode, please just let me know that, Amanda, as well. But in the meantime, how do people connect with the Turnaround CEO and with the amazing Amanda Daly?
You'll find me on LinkedIn, which of course I can give you all the social media links, and I have got a website.
Great.
And also there's a separate one as well, because what I do is hypnotherapy as well.
Yes.
Because sometimes, although I work in businesses, sometimes it's far more personal than what people want from businesses. So again, whole load of different ways of getting hold of me.
Beautiful.
So yeah, I'm
amazing
out on social media.
And let's drop them, because I know some people are sometimes listening to podcasts on a walk, or somewhere out or driving. But for those people that are listening right now who are like, oh my gosh, I want to find you right now, and I'm listening to you, but I'm not on the show notes page or whatever. The Turnaround CEO.
Yeah, and it's literally
www.theturnaroundceo.co.uk. Great. And then what's the other website, the hypnotherapy one?
That is amandadaly.co.uk.
Amanda Daly. So AMANDA. DALY
.co.uk.
And then on socials, again, we'll drop everything below. But are people looking for Amanda Daly, or are they looking for the turnaround CEO, or both?
They can look for both.
Okay.
But if you look for Amanda Daly
Mm-hmm.
on LinkedIn, you'll find both companies there. But they
Brilliant.
are under different businesses. But just look for Amanda Daly and you'll see me. It
That's
comes up, the turnaround CEO.
Amazing. Great. And then just again, for total clarification, so you mentioned the business site, and then if people want more personal work through the hypnotherapy. And in terms of the business site, ideal clients, we've already said awkward, and maybe people are identifying themselves as awkward, but maybe not.
Very determined people
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes find it difficult to be vulnerable.
Okay.
They're the people. But the businesses that I tend to work with, if it's okay if I put it into pounds,
Yes,
in
absolutely,
dollars,
absolutely.
So
yes.
my sweet spot now is from businesses that are from £10 million up with like 50 plus employees that are actually looking at breaking like the team silos down. So say, for example, we've got businesses that don't challenge enough each other, that perhaps aren't pushing each other enough, or maybe you've got leaders that perhaps aren't stepping up to their true potential. Again, they're the people that I tend to work with a lot.
Beautiful. And then on the personal side, the hypnotherapy side, does that often come from the business and people going, oh, maybe I want a little bit more of this?
It's quite bizarre, really, because the turnaround, my clients tend to be males.
Okay. Yeah.
For the hypnotherapy side, my clients tend to be females.
Oh, interesting.
So that is a bit of a flip. So again, it doesn't matter who you are. I'm happy to work with you, but it does seem to be a common trend there.
That's beautiful. And again, something I'm really deeply feeling in this conversation, and obviously having known you, Amanda, and deeply worked with you in the work we've done together too. You walk your talk.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the word that came up earlier, actually, as you were sharing those experiences, you didn't use the word shaped me, but I suddenly had a real image of like a forge, like forging ironwork, or where like horseshoes are made, just really through that fire and then coming out the other side. You really have walked through that. And so when you speak about reinvention, when you speak about taking steps for actually owning and using your voice and speaking up, and also the vulnerability piece, you've been there.
Absolutely.
You know what it feels like. You've faced those things.
I walked out the marriage with virtually 2 suitcases. Yeah, we were privileged because we had 2 houses, but the big family, the £1 million family home, I just left it.
Wow.
And I just went to the smaller family house because, if our marriage was just about money, you have it.
Wow.
Because it's like you say, I'll do it again myself, which luckily I have been able to do. So, it's like once your mind has been made up, move on.
Amazing. Okay, yes. And you have. That felt like a mic drop moment there too. You're like, okay, done, right, and now create, and you have. All right, I think, quick time check, I'm good on time. All right. So 2 more questions, and one of those is a question that I ask everybody at the end of every interview. We'll come to that one in a moment. Let's have a look. Oh, I don't want to ask you. I've got some questions in front of me. Again, if you're not watching on video, you'll see me with a bit of paper here. Oh, I'm going to ask you this question. We talked about fast action, and you said you love working with people who take fast action as well. Fast thinkers, I think, is the word you just used. So you are someone who takes action fast. We talked about founding the cut. You got the idea. Bing, that's it. Okay, next day, left the retreat, set it up. We know how you did that, but sometimes people take fast action not from alignment, which I hear what happened there was bing, yes, that's correct, alignment, but out of desperation. That kind of fast action. Oh my gosh, I've got to do something. I've got to take action from desperation. Yours didn't. It came from alignment, not from desperation, even though there were things going on you hadn't nailed yet, as it were. You hadn't been to that therapy up in Scotland. You didn't know specifically what was going on. Health, eating, all those things were clear. But how did that speed come from alignment? Not from, I've got to do something else here, like not from desperation. And what do you want high achieving listeners to learn from that? What would you say to them?
Listen to your inner voice. Sometimes we hide it because we don't like what it's saying to us, but often it's the right voice to listen to and not what it looks like on the outside, if that makes sense. Sometimes I think we worry too much what other people are going to think, so we disguise our inner voice. It's your life. What anybody thinks about you is their business. Don't make it about your business. Just listen to that inner voice. Beautiful.
Thank you. That is a perfect segue into the final question. And actually, I'm even squeezing one more in. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you would love me to have asked you, Amanda?
No, I think you've covered quite a lot, actually. I guess, where do I see myself in the future, maybe?
Oh, that's a juicy question.
And we were talking about this when we reconnected, because there is a desire for me now to maybe go to an international market. I think I'd like to get more established, maybe in areas now where women are getting more of a voice and leadership styles may have to change. AI as well is bringing in massive changes. So the way that people are and the way that people need to show up and the courage that's perhaps needed with the next movement, I think there's space there for me.
Beautiful. Is there anybody you're looking to connect with around that? And I'm asking that because you never know who is listening to this, and there have been guests on this show, and sometimes I've said to them, you can actually speak directly to camera and ask. We've had actors and musicians on here who've been like, I'm looking for an agent, or I'm looking for, there was a soul I interviewed recently who has set up a not-for-profit and was looking for other not-for-profits to sponsor a video series they were doing, and they did a direct-to-camera ask for that. So is there anybody you'd love to connect with? This might be on LinkedIn, it might be just,
I'd really love to connect into some really forward-thinking business leaders in Dubai or in Saudi Arabia. They're actually starting to really, really recognise the value of women in the business and understanding that some women need help to have their voice being heard, and how do they get that voice heard. And again, we're moving fast, aren't we, the way that we are, the way that we're all showing up. So if there's any businesses that are wanting to bring change in the way that their leadership style may be becoming less slightly male-dominated and encouraging women to step up, they're the businesses that I'd love to get involved in.
Beautiful. And I love that you named, so Dubai, any other countries in there?
Saudi Arabia. The ones that are really going through quite a lot of change.
Wonderful. Okay, so if you're listening to this, we'll put all the links below. Pop Amanda a DM or an email through the website and connect with her.
Awesome.
You never know where those connections will lead.
Awesome.
Let me know.
I will.
I'd love to hear. All right. Are you ready for the final question?
Go for it.
Great. This is the ritual question, the question I ask every single guest that comes on this show. And it's funny because Serena is in the studio and I'm going to interview Serena next after this interview. And so whenever I have another guest in the studio, I always say to them, off camera, I'm not looking at her, I'm looking at you, that they can stick their fingers in their ears if they'd like to at this point, so they don't hear this question. But some people still like to listen in, some people like to shut their ears and not listen in. So Amanda, in asking you this question, again, some guests like to close their eyes as I ask this question, some like to ask me to repeat it. Do whatever feels true for you. And it's interesting because you just talked about really listen in. Perfect segue into this. So, here we go. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Amanda Daly.
Mm-hmm.
When everything else falls away, expectations, fear, resistance, what does your soul whisper is next?
International work.
Beautiful.
Definitely.
Yeah, I see that. 100%.
Yeah. ...
To be continued. Let's see what opens up next. It's
Awesome.
been such a joy having you here. Thank you for being on the show.
You're very welcome, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure and an honour.
I think we were, well, where's this conversation going to go?
I know. I knew I'd written questions. I'm like, I feel like we're just going to have a conversation, and we really have. And I'm just so proud of you and everything that you've accomplished. You are a different woman from when we first met, and I'm just so deeply glad to know you, and I'm so happy that it's working out the way it is.
Oh, ditto.
And here's to international work.
Absolutely.
Coming your way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. I am so grateful we got to spend this time together. To instantly know about new episodes dropping, be sure to subscribe to The Kate Kenny Show #unfiltered on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And if you enjoyed this episode, do please leave a review, especially if you listen on Apple Podcasts. This will help more people access what's shared here. If you really loved this episode, take a screenshot on your phone and share it on social media. Tag me at @TheKateKenny and I'll be sure to reshare your post. Remember, when you dare to go unfiltered, everything changes. Thanks again for listening. Keep shining that bright light of yours into the world, and I'll see you next time.